This is Sessions with Sara Cate and Ashley, a podcast that explores the feelings, emotions, and experiences of what it means to be human in this world. This podcast is intended for educational purposes only and is not meant to replace therapeutic services of any kind. Please refer to the list of references if you need support.
And before you dive in, please like, subscribe, comment, share with anyone you think might also connect with today's session. Our goal is to reach as many people as possible, and we are endlessly grateful for your continued support. So, let's get to it. Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Sessions with Sara Cate and Ashley. I am Ashley.
And I am Sara Cate.
Sara Cate and I were just discussing the Lions portal.
Whoa!
Today.
Today is 8/8.
And we did not overnight become, astrologers, but
Thank you for the disclaimer.
However, we both resonate with things of such nature. And so it's kind of how we introduced ourselves to the topic we're gonna discuss today. Sara Cate's going to give you a little bit more
rundown
that topic.
Yeah. So the Lionsgate portal being open on, obviously you're going to hear this post portal opening in a couple of weeks, but what the portal is kind of talking about is this alignment between a star, the sun, and the moon, I believe. And I might be completely wrong on that, but again, we're not astrologers, so my friend Megan, who literally does that, I help correct it. But there's actually a link that I will put in, because you can still work with the idea of the energy of the cosmos and the stars later, but there's some rituals you can do. And for me, I've always been drawn to me, I call it intentional practice of I am setting my intention on something. So the Lionsgate portal being open, what does that really mean? Is this the only day that we can be intentional and set things into alignment? No, it isn't, right? We could do it any day of the week that we wanted to. But for me, I find a potency to it. And that's something I've over the years discovered, right? And found that I do feel a relationship to the moon cycles and different astrological things that are happening. It resonates with my body. It doesn't resonate with everybody's system, right? And I think the same for religion and spirituality. And so Ashley and I were kind of talking about, we've had conversations about what's for me, what's not for me, and how we discern that. But specifically today, we want to kind of point our direction towards the spiritual world and spiritual practices and religion and faith and magic, and what that means for you, and how do you, especially when it's so easy to give our power away to these gurus or pastors or to God, whatever it might be, how do you still kind of keep your knowing and your truth as the most sacred before you then seek that guidance or wisdom, right? Because it isn't the moon tells Sara what's up. It's Sara sits with what's going on for her, and how does that then relate to what might be happening astrologically, right? It's me first, and then this outside source of information to make sense of it. Because for my mom, for her, it's prayer and the church, right? She's a Christ follower. And so she really finds information and support from her relationship and prayer. And for me, I pull tarot, right? And that's how I get, if I feel like something's going on, then I go to the cards and just say, clear this up for me, show this. And this is why Ashley and I even wanted to incorporate pulling some oracle cards and tarot cards in these, because we do find a resonance with it. So that's kind of what we want to move through today as an offering, because I think it's really easy in this culture to get really attached to messaging and attached to someone else's belief of what's right for you around your faith or direction or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
How,
And
yeah, go.
sorry, what?
No, go.
Well, I think you mentioned some things that I know probably, well, you mentioned one thing that I know people probably heard and were like, what's happening? When you're talking about that it's you first and then whoever, right? And it's you first and then God. And there's a lot of like, it's God first. And it's interesting because I grew up in the Catholic Church, which
heavy hitter there.
It's so interesting because I grew up and I always was wondering like how all my friends knew Bible verses, because you're not taught Bible verses in Catholic school. Like,
Really?
yeah.
Really? I would have thought that was it more of like about the saints or what?
Yeah. And we like learned prayers, but we didn't
Learn scripture.
read the Bible. Like when I went to CCD is what we called it. Like we didn't learn. I don't know. Anyways, that's not what this is about.
I can see the gears turning in your head.
Get on track, Ashley. Follow the script.
She'll get there. She'll get back. She'll find her way back.
But it's so interesting to me when I think about that, right? Because there are many different definitions of spirituality and spirit, and there's different depending on what book you look in. Like when you look at the word spirit, it comes from spiritus, which some interpret as like within oneself or of oneself. And that's really interesting when you think about that, like literal definition, like this is of oneself. That means you, right? So like that is like the primary, right? But then we have this relationship with God or universe or whatever you call it. And it's like, oh, there is supposed to be this connection, but that includes you, right?
Yeah.
It's not just
that.
It's not just that. There has to be a relationship there. And I think that that's part of what I missed growing up is I was taught that there were only certain people that I could ask forgiveness from, right? There was only certain people that could grant that forgiveness, which is wild, right? Because they weren't even God. They were the priests, right? Like that's not, I had to tell this stranger the sins that I committed, right? Instead of cultivating my personal relationship with God.
Yeah.
Or with whatever spiritual practice, you have to have a relationship with that in order for it to be truly supportive. Because if we're taking ourselves, it's like with anything that Sara Cate and I talk about, if we take ourselves out of the equation, guess what? We're losing ourselves. We're moving further and further away from what's truly within us. And I don't know a world where there is another you, right? So there's a reason why you're individual and it's just you're the only person. And if we're trying to like remove all of our power, I don't know, I think we're missing the mark on what like true spirituality can be, because it can be such a beautiful, deep partnership.
Yeah.
We have to play an active role,
and listen to ourselves, right? Like that when we think of spirit, or we think of like the self in this instance, it's our bodies and our beings, right? And I mean more like soul, have so much wisdom. And we came into this life with that wisdom, right? As a unique soul in this, and then we have this body around it. And that soul has story, and it has direction, and it has reason for being here. And we get to explore that. And it's never meant to be separate from our path. But what happens is we look to teachers or priests or religious leaders. It doesn't matter, insert religion here, insert faith practice here, right? There's always this hierarchy. And I'm always wary, and I always say this, if the teaching does not lead you back to self first, to discern what feels right for you, and it leads you towards somebody, often else, some guru or some leader, to say they know what's best, that's a red flag, right? Because your spirit has a direction, and then we get to ask for guidance on how to create that direction, on the steps and the tools and the support that we would need for that. But your direction is your direction. And if you, and even believing that like God is intervening in that, that's beautiful. That's powerful, right? That there's support there, but it isn't that there's this some mystical disconnection that says you have no say in this.
Right.
Like that we're just going to throw you and you don't get to have choice and agency. That isn't how we're supposed to create here, right? From my lens, from my perspective, and from sitting with people and hearing stories and sitting with their souls and sitting with the pain that they've endured in this life, and how giving their power away to another entity has often caused more strife and confusion. It has not brought clarity and direction.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's, I mean, again, it's like I'm not sure how we can like move through life if we just don't have any power over who we are. Right. Like it's not this is about strengthening relationships all around. We're in relationship with literally everything that we come in contact with. And your relationship with whatever spiritual practice is just as important, right? If you view that your relationship with God is the most important, like that's incredible. Okay. But it's a relationship, and a relationship goes both ways, right? It's not a one-sided, this person or this guru, like insert again, whatever, just has all of the answers. It's guidance. That's the beautiful part of it, is it's guidance. We get to walk our path however you want to view it, protected, led, right? But if it's a true leader, they're leading you through yourself. And that's the part that gets missed a lot. A leader who's leading you towards their path, that's not a leader.
Right.
It's a fraud.
That was so hard to get out.
I didn't know what to say. I wanted to say that's a fake, but I was like, that's
a fake.
That's not it.
Oh my God. But fraud really worked well.
It
really, that is very accurate. It is. It's fraudulent.
Yeah.
To try to
harmful,
sell.
Extremely dangerous.
Yes. Yeah. I have a really strong interest in high control groups, AKA cults. And Ashley knows this. I probably annoy all of my friends and family with how much I talk about all the conversations around it, because I find it literally, as someone who is constantly, chronically, daily helping clients reorganize their hierarchy of power in them, to have themselves at the helm and to have themselves priority number one, right? Like any sort of high control group is counterintuitive to the work that I do. And so, because it all says, put your power with me and what I believe and what I teach. And this can be a church. This can be, I was talking to Ashley about Nexium, the cult that was all about self-evolution, right? It was under the lens of like, here's how you can expand and become this better version of yourself and be successful in your careers by our program, right? And then it became by this horrible mind control, body control, and all these people were so disempowered to believe that this person had the answer. They had the wisdom, and they were all wrong, right? And they turn, and that can happen in the church too, right? I work with so many people who've had to, throughout their childhood, were in these really intense religious communities where you had to dress a certain way, you had to be a certain way. And I think about the FLDS and the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and they are specific about how the girls look and talk. And, it's just really intense how we can lose autonomy so quickly if we think and we believe and are taught to. There's a lot of indoctrination in this too, let me be clear, right? You might not even realize you're a part of this group because you were raised in it, or right? And you don't even recognize that you get to have this autonomy.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, like we were talking about earlier, you might not recognize that you're part of it because there are parts that were so good, truly. And I mean that, like, they're literally like with Nexium, that was like here, like helping yourself in your career, and people were doing really well and they were feeling really
being
good
successful
about themselves. And so why wouldn't you want to follow that, right? But here's where the discernment comes in, is just because bits and pieces of it, this is true for anything, not just like spirituality, but anything that you are learning, whether it's workouts or religion. There are pieces that are going to be really, really, really incredible. And there might be some pieces that are not. And that is where that's where the power comes in for you to be able to say, I think that that's moving a little bit further away from actually my path. And I'm going to bring myself back. It doesn't mean that every single piece of all of religion is terrible. That's insane to think that. But reminding ourselves along the way that like we have to constantly be evaluating the information that we are taking in. It's true for like news outlets, right? Like people are being radicalized, right? Like it probably starts out and they feel so good and they're welcomed into a group. Like you feel like you belong. Those are very powerful ways of feeling that you want to follow. But it doesn't always mean that they're leading you back to yourself.
Yeah. You said such an important word in that, Ashley, which was that's where the discernment comes in, right? That discernment of being able to take information and say, does this feel relevant and aligned with me? And if it does, then I use it. If it's resonant, then I use it. But if it's not resonant, I can leave it, right? And there's no harm in setting that down, right? Like there's no harm in recognizing I don't attach to that. I don't feel like that's going to get me where I want to go, you know? And but that discernment mechanism or tool might never have been given to you. It might be broken, right? Over years of indoctrination and grooming and suppression. In a lot of ways, if you really weren't given, because I was even saying to Ashley about this topic, I'm like I was talking with a client and she is kind of she's in the world of metaphysics and she's starting to kind of ruffle some feathers because of some of the messaging that she's putting out there. And she's kind of saying that actually doesn't feel relevant for me in regards to other people's teaching. And she's coming from a lens of like being able to say, just trust yourself, right? Like she's trying to guide people back to like, does that teaching feel relevant for you or not? And if it doesn't, you don't have like, then leave it. Right. And that's I think her messaging is so much less in the world of spirituality. And it's oftentimes so much more, no, just follow this technique, just follow this path. And I think structure is really helpful. But if, again, like Ashley said, if the structure leads you away from yourself and your own ability to listen and your own ability to connect to what feels right for me, because again, if you were to go against a pastor or a teacher or whatever, and you say that actually doesn't feel relevant for me, if they have a problem with that, that's a red flag. Right? If they aren't going to say, okay, tell me more about why you feel that way or whatever it is, why do you feel like it's not relevant for you? It should be a dialogue, not a disconnection, right? But it's hard when you've been in these groups or when you've become attached to community, and then you could get kicked out of the community because you decide to dissent or you decide that something isn't. I mean, there's so much wound up in this, but at the end of the day, Ashley and why we created this podcast was to create a space to encourage people to listen to their bodies in a different way, to renegotiate or renew a relationship to their body. And that comes with a ton of wisdom. And that comes with a ton of information. And as children, when we were feeling angry, mad, sad, and a parent or a caregiver or an adult said, "You're fine." No, you're not. That's not real. It breaks that congruence with our own self to trust what our body is doing, to trust that guidance that our body is saying something's not right for me here. And it doesn't mean that it's always what can happen or what's happening, but it's true for you and your body. And if we didn't have that reflection of like, yes, what you're feeling is true. No, you're not having ice cream for dinner. And I see that you're mad about that, right? To teach that coherence in a kid, we then as adults haven't trusted the emotions that we have. We don't trust the emotions we feel. So we shut them down or we shut them off. And then we trust our intuition up, our intuition off then, right? We don't feel that little nudge of like, do we feel like that person's actually being truthful? Is that person in fact a fraud? Right? Like we don't listen, or this could, and this, like Ashley was saying, this applies to so many different facets of our life. This could be in relationship too, of like, is this person really have a good intention with me? Right? But we don't, when we haven't had that, it's really, as children, it's really then hard as adults to really see with clarity, no, my emotions are right. And what you're telling me isn't. And so it can also be from, some of that rupture in childhood that we sometimes have a hard time not just taking the advice or not just trusting what the guru says.
Right. Did you pull a little card over there?
I did pull a little card over here. I love this. It's Cloud.
Okay. What deck is this from?
This is from the Untamed Elemental.
Okay.
We've pulled from this. Cloud arises when liquid droplets transform into crystals suspended in time. He's a kindred of many worlds. His vapor sings with celestial mobility, networking our moods with higher thought. He clarifies the scope of life's unpredictability with foils of wisps, chains of ripples, and scrolls of futures. He is broadcasting Earth's emotional intelligence to the cosmos and precipitating galactic wisdom upon the earth. He is a two-way mirror with the power to influence worlds. Cloud invites you to create magic through ritual. I love this. Cloud invites you, I already said that. You can quickly usher in change you desire by designing daily, monthly ceremonies that invoke visions you hold for your life. Cloud reminds you that the world of spirit and the physical realms are a reflection of one another. By crafting meaningful ritual, you join both together to bring your vision alive. This is exactly what's happening with the Lionsgate portal too, which is so cool. By crafting meaningful ritual, you join both together to bring your vision alive. Your intentions gather like water droplets, and you are empowered to shower life-giving rain upon beautiful new realities.
Yeah.
When balanced, conscious creation. When imbalanced, perceptions of fixed realities that limit potential. To bring into balance, perform a ritual invoking the participation of your sovereign essential self.
Look at that.
I love it, because it is.
I know.
The Lionsgate portal talks about like how our dreams and our desires get to physically manifest, right? Like this is the time of that co-creation. And that's essentially what we're talking about too with all of this, of just being able to feel self and trust and then bring it to the tangible world to be like, is this reflecting each other?
Yeah. I love the two-way mirror. What it said, like that it said two-way mirror. Cause I always think sometimes I say God, sometimes I say spirit. I'm kind of fluid with what I say usually, but I always view it as like, if I'm using God, it's like, I see God and God sees me. Like we're together, we're level, we're on the same plane here.
Yeah.
I see God and God sees me. And that's like a two-way mirror, right?
Yes. And what you were saying about it being in you, spirit being in you, right? Of just like, okay, and there's actually no disconnect.
Right.
And we can feel that. And then the idea of ritual and ceremony, I think, goes against all traditions, right? Like all traditions, all faith, all religion have ritualistic natures to their practices. And so we can bring that in and trust that, like, what is the ritual for me? What is it that I need to do? So like I said, I'll include, just for those of you who are interested, a little link about the Lionsgate portal that's opening today, but just being able to, again, offer you another way of looking at how you're coming towards yourself and listening to your discernment around any teachings or any guidance that you do receive.
And as always, share this with anybody that you might think needs it, will appreciate it. It will help them. And until next time, take care of yourself.